Hi, and welcome to College Planning Untangled, where we simplify the lives of our families that are planning for college. I'm Kristin Clark. I'm a career exploration coach, and I work with 16 to 26-year-olds to help them figure out a career path. And yes, they can do that at that age. And then I'm here with Bobby Hood, who it works with students, helping them through the SAT and ACTs and bump up those scores so they can get those merit scholarships. Bobby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just great. I had fun yesterday. I had a student had a tutoring session with me, and she said, "I've already been accepted to and committed to West Point,"
Ooh,
but
nice.
found out that West Point and the other military academies are the only schools left that make you take the essay on the ACT. So she's taking
Oh,
so she's
bummer,
taking the
dude.
ACT one more time, but she's going to get her score up some more, which can affect her financial aid package at West Point. But very exciting. West Point is like that's going to be very cool. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about today is anxiety in teenagers, which is kind of what our show is just about, right? Anxiety in
It
families,
is.
because college makes you anxious, right?
Yeah. And you found a good book about this, right? So those for all those learners out there, that parents that want to read, you've got a good book to recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I bet that anyone watching this probably may have already heard about this and wondered what is going on, right? There's this book called The Anxious Generation: How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness by Jonathan Haidt. And it has become a complete bestseller, right, in the 2 weeks since it came out. And so I've already heard this guy interviewed on a podcast, and it is funny. I just wanted to talk about it today because it sounds to me like stuff that we as Gen Xers have been saying for 30 years.
Well, let's start talking about that. But before you do that, I want to get this in the comments for people.
Yeah.
How do you spell this guy's last name?
Haidt, Jonathan with no H, Jonathan. I think it's one H.
Perfect. I got it in there.
Haidt. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, I mean this book has become a huge bestseller, and basically, I mean, let's just talk about what his theory is, right? So the first part of the book, he explains that like there is an epidemic of anxiety and mental illness happening with young people today. Oh, and it really started in the early 2010s.
And I've got facts on that.
Okay, I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Quick fun fact. Well, it's not a fun fact, actually. It's a sad fact.
Yeah.
But there's about 25% of our kids, our teenagers today that are on meds for anxiety.
Yep.
And Bobby, that's just scratching the surface because there's so many of them out there that aren't on medication that it may help. So, when people are like, it's not that big of a deal, it's a big deal. There's a lot going on here.
Absolutely right. And I mean, it would be easy as a Gen Xer to say, just, suck it up like we did, right? Yeah. But no, I mean, like it is that students need treatment for this. And there's a question for why it's happening, right? And I'm not sure, how correct these theories are, but it is a fact that this is an epidemic that is happening with students today. And so the first part is, discussing those facts that this is a thing that's happening. And then basically the second piece is he starts talking about his theories about why it's happening, right? And Jonathan Haidt's theories are that students don't play outside and don't play with other students enough, which doesn't help them with interactions, role models, right? It basically, is like doesn't build attachment with friends in the same ways, right?
No, and I'd even venture to say on that, Bobby, and we've talked about all this, but that it's also they don't develop those social skills that they're needing when they get into the work world and everything else.
Absolutely.
Where you might have a fight with a friend.
Right. How to deal with conflict. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. We had to just learn to deal with it. Right. And so I mean, that's part of it. Right. And then this third piece of the book is that he says this is primarily caused by having smartphones and having social media accounts, right?
Yes, and I think he's right. Now, you said that was the third part. Will you fill me in what was 1 and 2, just so I may?
Yeah, part 1 is the statistics. There is an epidemic.
Got it.
Part 2 is kids aren't playing enough and developing social skills.
Yep.
Part 3 is he thinks it's primarily caused by, and I think by the use of phones and social media. And I think that's a very important point, right? And, there's certainly many other factors also, right? COVID had a unique effect on so many students, right?
Yeah.
And just the anxieties of, life today, right? Like all the things they're hearing about, you're never going to retire, you're never going to be able to buy a house, right? You're going to have to live with your parents for years and years. You're going to have unpayable, student loans and things like that too, right?
You're bringing up so many things I want to contribute on this.
Yeah. So
now, first one is this, and then we got to talk about that social media thing because it is a thing.
Right.
But did he mention in the book anything about video games?
So he's not he's basically just saying that would be part of the not playing outside piece, right?
Okay.
And yeah, he's saying like they'll sit inside and play video games and things like that. And so you might, if you're playing a team, video game, you might be doing social interaction through, headsets, you might be talking, but it's not the same as playing outside in an unstructured way without adult supervision. So that's his argument. But yeah, he's not, but yeah, he's blaming cell phones as the primary thing here. And and you and I can come up with a million other factors that affect it, right? But the point is, the fourth and last part of the book is his recommendations for what to do, and they're all about cell phones. And so I think it's maybe a little overly focused on cell phones, but I think it's important points.
No, for sure it is. For sure it is. There's one other factor though, Bobby, that I think that you have to talk about. And I think that's also the helicopter parent thing that went on. Right.
Yeah.
And I just think there was such a perfect storm when we were bringing our kids up, because this is a Gen X issue and filtering into a millennial issue. Right. But that we were on them all the time. It was like, and we were trying to do the right thing. Right. But we figured out it's really not. But that the helicopter parent, I think, also leads into this whole not letting kids go out and play and do, be kids and do all the stuff. Like we wanted them under our thumb the whole time.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing, right? Each generation reacts against what the previous generation did. And so with Gen X being so unsupervised, I think that a lot of us just remembered, gosh, all these things we did. We were out playing in abandoned houses and things, and we could have died so many times, and we were in so much danger when we really weren't. But then it leads to over management of risk and protecting the students from any risk. And therefore, then that keeps them from having those.
Okay, I'm done with my tangents. So let's go into what he talked about. I don't think any parent can look at social media and cell phones and go, "Oh, that can't be it," right? I think
Oh yeah, it's definitely a thing, right? And
what was he suggesting? Because that's really where the meat of this is. I think
that's what the book is, right? Is these recommendations, right? Which is the basic recommendations are, and he's saying, okay, let's be realistic about this, right? You can't completely take away phones and social media from teenagers, high school students, right? But what you can do is make sure that they get this development as they go, right? So first thing, more playtime outside, more unsupervised activity with other children with very minimal adult supervision.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. When they're, maybe, up to age 13, right? When you're, doing a lot of that, when you're in elementary school, when you can go do those things, right? And then one of the things that's the real radical ideas, right? Which is don't give your kid a smartphone is what he's recommending instead, because obviously you need to be able to get in touch with your kid in today's society, right?
Yeah.
So instead he's suggesting giving them a flip phone or something like that until high school, because in high school, they're going to need it for just their life. Right.
And I'm glad he brought that up, Bobby, because in the back of my head, I could hear all the parents going, but we need to talk to them. And here's what's going to screw all this up. Because I think he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay? Here's what's going to screw this up is the parent that has to whip out the iPhone and the latest version and give it to their, sixth grader. Yeah. If everybody could get together and just go, okay, we're going to do this,
Right. And that's right. And that's part of what he acknowledges is like, he calls it, like community collective action is like a whole lot of people are gonna have to agree on this. You're gonna have to have enough people in the school because you can't be the parent who's like, they're the only kid who has a flip phone in junior high, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that his theory is that that kid with the flip phone is actually going to be way, way happier and better adjusted than the other kids. So they're going to do okay. And he's also not saying, okay, he's saying, okay, first phone is a flip phone. You don't get a smartphone until ninth grade, right? And then social media, don't let them create a social media account until at least ninth grade, right? Now,
Okay.
that's where, really the Instagram thing is really where so much of the anxiety and damage comes from, especially for girls, but for boys as well, from just all of the fear of missing out and the bullying and the all
And
of
the
the
pretty
things
people, seeing the pretty people.
right,
And
because we
yeah.
can all say as Gen Xers, yeah, we had all those social pressures when we were in high school, but there it was rumors and cliques and things like that. But when one bullying thing can be seen by the entire class in 5 minutes, it can lead to suicidal thoughts. It can lead to, it's the pressure is infinitely higher, right?
For sure.
And so he's not saying you don't let the kids have TikTok on their phone. He's saying don't let them have an account where they can post videos, right? Where they can like be part of the posting, right? But if they want to view some videos, right? Because you need TikTok, even in junior high, students use that. It's full of really helpful things, not just for school, figuring out, like figuring out math problems, stuff like that,
Well,
but
Bob,
also, yeah, like just learning about yourself and people and knowing all the memes that are going
no, I know. And you can tell I'm like jumping out of my seat today to talk
on.
about
No,
this
there's so much.
But I actually just started writing my book, and it's a parent's guide to help have conversations with teens about careers and starting that really early, right? But
Yeah.
how do you do this? How do you start fostering it so it's not a, oh, geez, mom, but it's this continuing conversation that you've always had.
Yeah.
So I talk about TikTok.
Mhm.
In that I was like, I love TikTok. I learn a lot on TikTok. I learn recipes. I learn decorating ideas. I learn all the things. I love seeing families get together and learn to dance and having fun, right? There's so many good positive things. And for me, on the career side, it exposes you to all these things that you go, that might be interesting to me.
Absolutely right. You see people talking about their really interesting careers. You're like, I didn't know that career existed. Yeah.
So I love that about social media, even in general, but especially TikTok. So yeah, I mean, I look at this and I go, gosh, if this was used right, it's just when social media turns evil that it's a bad thing. But then again, Bobby, I think it's squarely on parents to know, and this is me looking hindsight. Don't think that I was the smartest parent on the block, because I certainly wasn't. But having conversations with your teens about, hey, what'd you see on TikTok today? And just have the conversation. I think it matters.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And so I think what I really like about this book is that, like, it's first thing, it's not like what we've all been saying as a knee-jerk response for so long, which is, phones are bad and kids aren't playing outside enough. He's giving practical suggestions
I love that.
are actually doable, which is like, okay, just wait till ninth grade for a smartphone and encourage them to wait till maybe 11th grade to even start their Instagram accounts and stuff. And once they realize how much less stressful it is that way, right?
Yes.
That can
And
be.
it's almost, Bobby, I would love to see this become this collective thought. I love where he's going with it, because we're seeing, you and I see this aftermath all the time with our clients too. But almost to the point where the schools get involved and they're like, parents, we highly suggest you don't get the smartphone, right? They're talking about it, and almost to the point where it's almost like group shame if you fall off the wagon and you decide to give the kid the flip or the iPhone.
The smartphone.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't applaud this enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely recommend people check it out and take a look. I think everybody's gonna be talking about it. And I think the practical ideas, regardless of whether it is the number one cause or whatever it is definitely causing problems. It's definitely causing anxiety. And these are simple ideas that might be helpful as you're looking toward this. And, and I think even if your kid's in high school now, I mean, just talk to them about like, hey, how does social media make you feel, right? And, people take breaks from it, right? And considering that. And that's all. So that's what I thought was a good thing to, it's so important to like take care of the kids today, right? And I see, I don't know, my last thought is that, when I see my tutoring students, I don't see, we don't talk that much about this sort of thing, but I think the ones that I see probably are the least suffering from this, because I think the students who are the most affected by anxiety probably aren't getting tutoring for the tests, right? They're hiding from it.
I don't know about that, Bobby, because one of the things that I see, and the reason I think
Mhm.
it probably comes up with my clients a little bit more maybe than you, because yours is all about getting a task done, right? And
Right.
it's getting this goal. And for the clients that I'm working with, they have to make decisions.
Oh yeah, the anxiety is going to come out. If it's there, you're going to see it a lot more, right?
Yeah,
When they're having to decide about their future and things like that.
Yeah,
Right.
or have an opinion about it, or so a lot of times that's actually on my form. I write in medical issues, and we talk about that with the parent, right? So that I'm aware of what's happening in the background, because I don't know if you've noticed, but I can be a little bit blunt in my conversation.
Sure.
And so I try to
That's
tone
good.
that. I sometimes have to tone that down a little bit if I've got to.
Right.
Yeah, so it's meaningful, but yeah, there's so many kids dealing
But
with.
yeah, and I think it is like, I guess like it does remind me of that student I had a few years ago who would get killer great scores on every practice test, and then took the real test and scored enormously lower. And that happened 3 times in a row, but she kept getting killer scores on her tests. And finally I suggested, like, you should maybe consult a medical professional. And it turned out that she had a little bit of dyslexia and a little bit of ADD, but she was so smart that she was able to cover it. And it was causing enormous, gigantic anxiety during junior year, because finally she had been able to control everything and keep everything together. And then finally in junior year, when she was captain of the drill team and all these things, it all kind of came together to like create a perfect storm. And then as soon as she got some anxiety medication, killed it on everything. Right. And so I think that's one of the things, is like, we need to recognize that this is real and that there are ways to attack it. And I think a lot of people our age are like, oh no, you don't need any pills, just, figure it out. Right. And that's not the answer. Right. She needed that so bad. And it was hard for me to recognize it. And once we did, it changed everything. And then she killed it. It was great.
Well, and I think too, I do feel like parents are getting more okay with, this is a thing and we need to get help. I've seen a lot more of it, Bobby, than I have in years past.
Well, right. And that's what was so interesting in that situation, because, I would say, okay, you did great on the practice test at home. You didn't do well on the test. What was test day like? Was it stressful or whatever? And it took 5 conversations before she finally actually said what was going on, that she was freaking out during the test. And that's, it's interesting, like that it is that hard sometimes to get out. And it's just asking questions and being persistent and being compassionate, and saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. Right. And that's what this is all about, is just practical things you can do. So I think everybody should take a look at it.
Yes, I agree. And before we go, thank you for bringing that up, by the way, because that was really interesting. Before we go, little shout out to my Iowa Hawkeye girls, Kristin Clark.
Oh yeah.
They're in the Final Four and they play Monday night. So
that's so great. Yeah.
Really
Congratulations.
Watching. And it's so fun.
Kristin Clark is amazing.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. In fact, I wouldn't even mind talking about this next week, because talking about role models, and
she is a great one.
She's got so many cool things going on. So maybe next week we can talk about that.
No, that sounds great. Yeah, I have a test question I use a lot that's about a famous female soccer player. And now maybe I'll use Kristin Clark in that example. So
awesome.
Awesome. Okay, talk to you next week.
All right, bye.
Bye.